Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago. Good morning to all members of the media who are with us live on this press conference hosted by the Joint Trade Union Movement. Uh, Good morning to all units of JTUM and workers and members of the public everywhere who are listening to us this morning. My name is Trevor Johnson. I am the Assistant General Secretary of the Joint Trade Union Movement and the General Secretary of the Banking, Insurance and General Workers Union. It is my task this morning to be the host of this press conference of the Joint Trade Union Movement. I just want to indicate to the media that the purpose of this press conference is for the affiliates of the Joint Trade Union Movement who are present with us to express our position with regard to the report that would have come out earlier this week of the government's rejection of the bid by Patriotic Technologies and Energies Limited for its bid for the Petrotrin Refinery. We would have had that news, which would have been of concern to all unions. And therefore, this morning, this press conference is called primarily to address this particular issue, this specific issue that we will be addressing. We propose to have four main speakers this morning, starting off with myself as Assistant General Secretary of JTUM, and that will be followed by Comrade Novan Maharaj, President of the All Trinidad General Workers Trade Union. We will also have a statement by Comrade Ermin Debig, General Secretary of the Contractors and General Workers Trade Union. And finally, we would have a statement by Comrade David Forbes, General Secretary of the Trinidad and Tobago Postal Workers Union. We do have other members of the Joint Trade Union Movement who are live with us on the panel thus far, and some others would be joining us. We have Comrade Timothy Bailey, President of the Steelworkers Union of Trinidad and Tobago. I'm seeing Comrade Clyde Elder, Secretary General of the Communication Workers Union. I'm seeing Comrade Peter Farmer, President of the Aviation Workers and Allied Workers Union. So that those are the ones that I believe I'm seeing now. As others join, I would certainly seek to introduce them at the appropriate time. And just to indicate to members of the media, since this matter is specifically dealing with the Petrotrin issue, I'm hosting on behalf of JTUM, Comrade, our President, Comrade Ansel Roger, and our General Secretary, Comrade Ozzy Warwick, in urgent meetings at the moment. As you would appreciate, this is a pressing and urgent issue, but we do have members, senior members of JTUM, who are all capable of indicating a position on this. So thank you for your attendance. I don't know if I might have missed Sister Cassandra Tommy, the General Secretary of the Amalgamated Workers Union. Sorry if I missed you, Comrade Cassandra, but these are the comrades who are on at this time. So, members of the media, to get straight into it, the Joint Trade Union Movement is here this morning because we want to express a very serious concern with the position that was reported, and in fact, we know is factual, the position of the government of Trinidad and Tobago and the cabinet, which would have indicated earlier this week that the bid by the Oilfield Workers Trade Union and Patriotic Technologies Limited would have been rejected. And this is after we would have had an announcement by the Minister of Finance in 2019, I believe, indicating clearly that the Oilfield Workers Trade Union and Patriotic would have been successful in their bid, and that announcement was made after a very rigorous process that would have gone through, and it turned out that the OWTU would have submitted the most comprehensive and strategic bid to show their capability to acquire and to run the former Petrotrin refinery. They would have also demonstrated that they had the business plan. They would have demonstrated that they had the requisite financing, international financing as well, and all the legal issues would have been. They would have demonstrated that they would have met all the requirements that was put to them for them to make a successful acquisition of this asset. And of course, we know that there's a depth of experience in terms since that this union would have operates in the energy sector of Trinidad and Tobago. So JTUM is here this morning, and I'm here to express, as a member of JTUM, to express concern and to indicate very early and very clearly that we are calling on the government of Trinidad and Tobago to get back to the table with regard to the finalization, because we have passed the stage of consideration and assessment. What is needed now is this finalization and the signing off of this arrangement so that technologies can begin the operationalization part of this, the implementation and the operationalization stage of this. And that is what we are calling on the government of Trinidad and Tobago this morning, very clearly, very unambiguously. We are told that there's some issue with a lien on the asset, and that is for the government of Trinidad and Tobago to address. That is not an issue for Patriotic or OWTU to address. And we are hearing that the government has said that they want the OWTU and Patriotic to demonstrate that they have the capability to meet the requisite payment as a result of this. And it is our understanding that that has been demonstrated, so that it is for the government of Trinidad and Tobago to do what is necessary, because we have to remember that they OWTU indicated very early that they had the requisite ability to meet the payment through their international finances and otherwise, and the government would have made an offer of a 3-year moratorium and 10 years to pay. The information we had is that has now been changed, and there's a requirement for upfront cash to be paid. And again, the OWTU and Patriotic would have indicated that they have the wherewithal to meet this particular payment. We are also concerned that we are hearing that the government wants to reopen the bidding process, meaning to invite new offers and new submissions for consideration. And the Joint Trade Union Movement, again, is making it very clear. A process has already been gone through. Many organizations would have made submissions. The Oilfield Workers Trade Union and Patriotic in technologies and energies would have made the best submission, and this would have been assessed by an independent panel. And therefore, we are saying that there is no need for a reopening or the invitation of new bids for this process. We are saying that the government has a bid before them. It is a very sound bid, and therefore we are saying this morning very unambiguously that we call upon the government. We see that they have recently indicated they are allotting 15 days for Patriotic to address any final issues. We are saying that it is the government to give as much time as necessary for the finalization of this arrangement, which the Patriotic and OWTU has confirmed that they are willing to meet all the requirements that have been set. So we want to make it clear this morning that we do not accept any sort of government's rejection of patriotic bid, and therefore we are concerned as part of the trade union movement that we are concerned, and we call upon the government to complete this deal with Patriotic and with the OWTU at this point in time. We are hoping that because some of this issue started around election time in 2020, and of course we have elections coming up again with the THA elections in Tobago, and we are hoping that elections and the issues around them do not seek to become an issue with this, and that the government does not make this a political issue. So we are calling on the government again. I end by making that indication, and we stand in strong support. The JTUM would have shown its solidarity even at our virtual conference, virtual rally, which we would have held last Friday, very successful rally. And then right after, on Saturday, we would have had a very successful motorcade. Over as many as 400 plus vehicles in that motorcade. So JTUM is showing its solidarity in every way, and the workers of Trinidad and Tobago, who are members of the individual units of JTUM, stand in solidarity with the Oilfield Workers Trade Union and with Patriotic Energy Technologies and Energies in and call upon the government for the conclusion of this deal. So, ladies and gentlemen, comrades, I will now call upon Comrade Novan Maharaj, President of the All Trinidad General Workers Trade Union, to speak at this time. Comrade Maharaj.
Thank you very much, Comrade Johnson. A pleasant good morning to my comrades of the Joint Trade Union Movement. A pleasant good morning to members of the media. I want to make it emphatically and categorically clear that the All Trinidad General Workers Trade Union stands solidly behind the OWTU in its bid to control the Patriotic Refinery. This is our brother union, both unions being formed and given birth out of the struggles of sugar and oil. The OWTU has been an entity in this country that would have served this country for 83 years. All the rights and privileges gained by the working class, by workers, and by even those who sit as managers and CEOs and human resource management, all those rights and privileges would have been gained by the struggles of the trade union movement, in many cases being led by the OWTU. For the first time in the history of this nation, we are seeing where workers have the capability and the capacity through their representative union to control, at least in one sector of the country, the factors of production. The OWTU has done everything possible. It has broken the glass ceiling, and it is placing the assets of this country in the energy sector, that is the Patriotic Refinery, into the hands of the people. One would hope that the aspirations and the dreams of the people of this country, the working class, and all those who would have given their blood and their sweat and their toil and their tears for the privileges and rights that we now enjoy would not have gone in vain. That is my sincere hope. And when I look at the media and I listen to the news stories, I wonder, is it a question of, oh, what a tangled web we weave when first we practice to deceive? The mere fact that the government of this country could give a 15 days extension to the OWTU means that there is merit in the proposal. It means that there are simply one or two issues that could be worked out with mutual compromise on both sides of the divide. And we today in the joint trade union movement wish to call upon the government, and as my comrade Trevor said, not to restart the process, but simply to bring the process to an end with proper understanding and compromise on both sides. And before I close, I want to make it very clear. In Trinidad and Tobago, as everywhere else, we have to be very careful of the privatization of the assets of the people. There are certain sectors of the economy and the country, but that must never be placed into the hands of the private sector. Because then you could have a nation and a people and a government being held to ransom by individuals and or private organizations whose philosophy is based on the philosophy of profit maximization. To a very large extent, a lot of the issues that arise in these government entities are not issues of the working class. These are issues that simply crop up because of lack of proper management, lack of efficient management, management taking unilateral decisions without understanding the people, the workers, and what they are engaged in. I wish to repeat, there are entities in every country on the face of the earth that must never be placed in the hands of the private sector. To do so is to place a gun to your own head and to give to individuals and organizations a monopoly over the assets that are supposed to be owned by the people. And I say again, for the first time in the history of this country, a trade union that would have served this country faithfully with outstanding service to the people for over 83 years, a trade union is on the brink of giving the assets of this country to the people. And we must never allow that to be thrown away, We cannot allow it. I am appealing to the government this morning on behalf of the trade union movement, on behalf of the joint trade union movement, on behalf of Phaeton, on behalf of NATUC, on behalf of the people, to allow the OWTU to finalize all arrangements in order for the assets, our energy assets, to be placed in the hands of those who would have labored in the oil fields of this country. My brothers and sisters of the media, you too, every single one of you sitting here today would have benefited from the struggles of the past. You would have benefited from those who would have gone before. You would have benefited from the struggles led by the OWTU, more so the March for Bread, Peace and Justice in 1975, more so the struggles of the 60s, the struggles of the 50s, the struggles of the 40s, 1937, when we fought, and when I say we, I mean those who would have gone before us, would have fought for every single right and privilege that you enjoy. Do not allow the private sector to throw that away, because if we do, then I can assure you that our ancestors would be turning in their graves at the dishonesty and the travesty of colossal proportions that we will be engaging in by handing our energy sector into the hands of a private organization or private individual. Worse yet, an external one. The people of this country deserve better. The people of this country deserve more. As I've said before, I do hope that it is not a tangled web we are weaving. The day that we put our Patriotic refinery into the hands of the private sector blindly and blatantly without any checks and balances is the day that I could truly say, "O judgment, thou art fled the brutish beasts, and men have truly lost their reason." Give to the OWTU what is rightfully theirs. Give to the people of this country what is rightfully theirs. I thank you.
Thank you very much, our comrade, Novan Maharaj, President of the All Trinidad General Workers Trade Union. And I now call upon Comrade Ermin Debig, our sister and General Secretary from the Contractors and General Workers Trade Union, to make a statement. Comrade Debik, just unmute your mic and you can proceed.
Thank you, Comrade Johnson. Good morning to my fellow comrades, to the media, to Trinidad and Tobago, and if we are being viewed on the international scene, I say good morning. This morning is a morning where the trade union movement, the trade union fraternity is totally upset, is totally disappointed in the manner in which this government has treated OWTU as it relates to patriotic. I can recall when the government is having any discussions as it relates to any big entity, they would be very thorough, and of course they would give the entity the type of time that is required. I would recall that when OWTU put in their bids, they had to wait a very long period for the response from the government. And at all occasions, when the government came to the table, they gave the OWTU a limited number of time. Quite recently, 15 days. What could 15 days do in this sort of arrangement? I need the people of Trinidad and Tobago to sit back and think carefully. For the magnitude of this arrangement, I want you all to ask yourselves, is 15 days sufficient for what is being asked for OWTU to produce? Or is it that the government is not serious and honest in their dealings? Because you cannot tell me that you have indicated certain things are required as it relates to the closure, and you are giving OWTU 15 days when you are constantly changing the goalposts. Because in one instant, you put the goalpost there. When they have met the requirements, you change the direction of the goalpost. And today, the goalpost has changed again. And in changing the goalpost, you are giving the OWTU limited time. Are you honest in your dealing? Do you really want to close this deal and give it to Patriotic, sorry? The question must be asked, is the government really and truly dealing in good faith as it relates to the labor fraternity by extension? OWTU and Patriotic is in the southern part of this country. And it leads me to ask the question, is it that the government is against the southerners? You have taken away Patriotic. You are placing your guns at Lake Asphalt. And you do not want to close the deal as it relates to Patriotic. The country must be aware that the working class 10 would benefit if the government should close this deal and close this deal quite fast as it relates to Patriotic, the workers of this country would benefit. This country presently, economy is in a bad state. And if the government should close this deal as it relates to Patriotic, you will see a turnaround in the economy. Does the government want that for Trinidad and Tobago? Does the government want that for the working class? Or is it that the government is playing games as it relates to the working class? I am the General Secretary of the Contractors and General Workers Trade Union. The Contractors and General Workers Trade Union is in full support of OWTU and Patriotic, because we see OWTU as a sister union. We are also members of NATOC and JTUM. And I can speak on behalf of the two fraternities. We are supporting Patriotic and OWTU 100%. We want to know why the government is not putting things in place to meet with Patriotic honestly and to close this deal once and for all. The working class is sitting back and looking. We are awaiting. We need Patriotic. The working class needs Patriotic. Is it that certain persons in the government has ulterior motives or have things set aside and is playing games? We have to ask ourselves that question. In light of what is taking place, we have to ask ourselves those questions. And before I close, I need to indicate if the government is serious about the working class, if the government is serious of keeping Patriotic, giving Patriotic to a local entity, and the only entity that fits all the criteria that were asked, why is the government taking so long to close this deal? We, as members of both NATOC and JTUM, is calling on the Prime Minister and the Minister of Finance to come clean as it relates to Patriotic. Our members is sitting by and waiting. The workers of Trinidad and Tobago has made a statement last Saturday. We are united to fight for the benefit of the working class of Trinidad and Tobago. And we would not stop until justice prevails. And for justice to prevail, the government must come clean, come to the table with honesty, and close the deal with Patriotic. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Comrade Ermin Dipik, our sister and General Secretary of the Contractors and General Workers Trade Union. I now move immediately on to our final statement coming from our brother and comrade David Forbes, as General Secretary of the Trinidad and Tobago Postal Workers Union. And immediately after this comrade speaks, we would have a question and answer time. So that let me invite Comrade Forbes to just unmute you and to make your statement.
Well, thank you and good morning, Chairman of today's press conference. Good morning to Trinidad and Tobago. Good morning to the media of Trinidad and Tobago. I'm David Forbes, the General Secretary of the Trinidad and Tobago Postal Workers Union, and I'm also a member on the Leadership Council of JTUM. Today is indeed a memorable day in the history of Trinidad and Tobago. And it is also in that regard, we would want to inform Trinidad and Tobago that on the 21st of January 1897, Tubal Uriah Buzz Butler would have born. And it today will certainly go down in history as the 124th anniversary of his birth. The trade union movement, in our quest to bring about awareness on workers' issues and national issues, have stood steadfast the same. And of course, as the sister would have said just now, coming out of our successful rallies, which was deemed Unite to Fight, workers expressed their appreciation of the commitments by their unions to treat with whatever circumstances that will arise in the workplace on a daily basis, and of course, those that are currently at the workplace. What we in fact did was rekindle our commitment to the workforce of Trinidad and Tobago to state that we are here, we are alive, and for the naysayers to understand that we continue to do what is right on behalf of workers and on behalf of the people of Trinidad and Tobago. The growing challenges that workers are currently facing in this pandemic situation is definitely growing. And I just want to touch on a few of them that goes at the root of decent work in the workplace in Trinidad and Tobago today. With the announcement by the Minister of Finance recently in the budget presentation that there will be a freeze on hiring in the public sector, tied to that is where we are seeing the public sector also taking other approaches in treating with their workforce from a dismantled or a smaller margin. So the workforce in some areas have become much smaller or skeleton in that regard. And arising out of that, what we are seeing is that workers are being paid late in many areas. We are also seeing that their terms and conditions have been affected. And what we are also seeing is the whole question of PPEs not being provided timely in the workplace. For some reason or the other, these things are happening, and we have reviewed that the employers who has that responsibility to ensure that the property of each worker in this country is well protected should be protected in that regard. What we are seeing in Trinidad and Tobago today, members of the media in Trinidad and Tobago, is our democracy is being tested in this instance. And the expectations of our people is that we would get it right. The legitimacy of the OWTU as an organization in Trinidad and Tobago in the bid that they would have presented to the government in acquiring the refinery was indeed exceptional. And this was revealed both by the government and other stakeholders. But the about turn by the government became suspicious and questionable over the past few days. The President of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago could not have said it better in her address to the nation in her New Year's message, when she spoke about the whole question of the secrecy, the divisiveness of the whole question of the people being told the truth in regards to the affairs of the country. She also spoke about persons being paranoid. And I hope that the powers that be who that message was addressed to would understand clearly where the president is coming from and what is her expectation as one of the leading heads of our country. We in JTUM, like the president, would again encourage the government to sit and seriously treat with the affairs of the country. Our state assets that belongs to the people has to be managed with surety and not as a political football. The success of the country in these times requires unity of all stakeholders, including all of the people and workers by extension. The fight should not be between workers against the employer or the government against an organization that is trying to continue the whole question of having our assets remain in the hands of the people of Trinidad and Tobago. We would want to question here this morning the whole issue of the recovery committee, which we have not been hearing much from since the committee was set up to treat with the recovery of the country post-COVID-19. We know we are not out of the crisis as yet as it relates to the COVID-19 situation. And we have already seen that we have already had a strain case in the country. And definitely we must not drop our guards in regards to the whole question of treating with the pandemic situation. We are at JTUM making a call here this morning that the recovery committee profoundly continue its work, and where there needs to be more stakeholders involved, like the labor movement, we would really want to have a lot to say as it relates to the population and, of course, workers by extension. The mighty sparrows in this calypso, the Federation said that if they know they did not want Federation, why they did not say so? The dog-eat-dog fight wouldn't carry this country anywhere at this time, and what we really need is profound discussions, meaningful discussions to carry us to that journey and to that place of developed status. So it is in that regard, we in the Joint Trade Union movement is calling on the government to listen to the people of Trinidad and Tobago. We are the voices of the people of Trinidad and Tobago at this level. And when we speak at this level, we bring the messages from the people who are below. So with this, I say thank you to the press and to the people of Trinidad and Tobago. Let us continue to journey forward ever into the paradise that we would want us all to live in. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Comrade Forbes. And we're going to be moving into just a period of question from the media. But just before we open up, I just want to again remind that it was in September 2019 that the Minister of Finance would have made an announcement that Patriotic was chosen as the preferred bidder. And this came, of course, just before the, later in that year, there was local government elections, but Patriotic was announced by the Minister of Finance. And in July of 2020, during the run-up to the general elections, the Prime Minister would have invited the OWTU to sign off on the agreement before the elections. But then there was a quick turnaround when the government then indicated that it would not be rushed into the union and Patriotic signing any agreement. So all of these issues are confusing the public. It's like one moment you're calling them to sign, the next moment you're saying you will not be rushed. That has nothing to do with Patriotics and OWTU's ability or the submission they have made. These seem to be statements made, and the reason we reference elections because some of these statements have come around election time. And here it is again, you have, we are nearing the THA elections, and again another announcement by the government. So, it just, there are questions being asked out there as to what exactly is happening, and what is the political angle that the government is taking with these statements. 1 minute it's okay, Patriotic is the preferred bidder. Another moment they don't meet all the requirements. So the members of the public and members of the media, even one editorial earlier this week in one of the daily newspapers was asking, there are more questions than answers, and that is really from the government side. So that as all of my colleagues and comrades have said, the Joint Trade Union movement is here this morning. We are not just supporting the OWTU because they are a trade union, and we are all, from the labor movement. We are supporting them because the they won the bid. It was public knowledge. They went through an assessment, and it was determined that they submitted the best bid. We want to support our brother union because it was declared that they made the submission the best business bid. This is a business deal, and we wouldn't mislead our brother union if they did not have the best bid that was submitted. So that is of concern to us, because we have seen many business entities being given business transactions or so, with much less submissions than the OWT would have made. We have seen business entities get acres of land for a $1 lease for 99 years, and with very little being asked of them to come up with hundreds of millions of dollars. There are transactions that have been included in this country by this government and by other governments where there was no such onerous requirements placed upon traditional business entities for them to meet such very stringent demands. So why it is these stringent demands are being placed on a trade union, on the OWTU, we are very concerned about that. It cannot be a different standard for traditional business, but when it comes to a trade union seeking to get involved legitimately in a business transaction, that the bar is suddenly raised, and then the bar continues to be raised again. And when they meet that, you raise the bar again. What is happening? The government of Trinidad and Tobago needs to be transparent. They need to come forward. The Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, as I would have said earlier in the week, just as he's leading the COVID-19 issue, he has considered it important enough. This is an important issue, and we are calling on the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago to come out and make a definitive statement about the state of this particular situation. Just before we go to question and answer, I just want to acknowledge Comrade Antonio De Freitas, who would have joined us, President of the Trinidad and Tobago Unified Teachers Association, and also our brother, Comrade Ian Hewitt, from the Association of Maxi Taxis. So welcome, and let me open it up to the media. I think you advise that you need to use the raise hand feature on the bar. So if you have any questions, you can indicate, and we would seek to facilitate you being able to ask your question. So members of the media, this is your call. TTT, I think there's a question from TTT. You may proceed. There's an indication that the representative from TTT wanted to ask a question, so we're just waiting for the technology to kick in so that they can ask their question. TTT, you have the floor. Yeah. TTT representative, you can speak. It's open for you to speak if you are hearing me. Yeah. And whilst we're waiting on TTT, any other members of the media who may have a question, you can also indicate so that we can accommodate you. But we have a raised hand from, I think it's Mysterian Brown Campbell of TTT. So if you are hearing, please indicate. Your microphone is open, so you can speak. Okay. Well, is there anyone else from the media who would like to ask a question? See, we also have TV6 in the house as well. So if you have, just use the raise hand feature. Okay, so we're just we're waiting. It might be that we made our position very clear, but we would certainly like to give an opportunity. There are members of the media on the chat. We have TTT, we have TV6, we have Newsday, we have Loop, and I think also a couple radio stations. So yes, we now have another raised hand. So I'm just indicating with my team in the background. Yes, you just unmute your mic and you can just indicate which media house you represent and you can ask your question.
Comrade Johnson, your mic.
Sorry, we do have a question in the chat from TTT, and the question is, the question of funds is the issue raised by government. The question is, does the OWTU have the money to purchase the refinery? Right, so the question, I'm just repeating it, the question of funds is the issue raised by the government. That's the government of Trinidad and Tobago. And directly, does the OWTU have the money to purchase the refinery? And the response is twofold. One, all along in the process and very early on, the OWTU would have indicated and the government would have accepted the bid by the OWTU, which would have incorporated, indicated, of course, the ability to make the payment. So I don't think the issue of making a payment or whether the OWTU had the capability to pay was ever a challenge in that, because the government, by acceptance of the bid, would have effectively answered that question very early on. So the question that is the challenge that is being faced now, as we understand it from the OWTU, is the issue of a lien on the asset, which has to be settled. As most of us know, whether you purchase a vehicle or you have a mortgage on your property, you cannot sell it before that lien is cleared or released, or some arrangement has to be, that clearing of that has to be part of the arrangement. So that question, I suppose, is we just want to indicate, as far as we are aware, there's no issue with the capability to pay, or the issue of a funding being available to the OWTU and Patriotic. Like everything else, whether it's through international or local banking arrangements, are there, and therefore that is our understanding. So hopefully that would would answer the question that was asked. Okay, let me just see any other. So we do have another question from the media. I'm not quite sure which media. I think I'm told it's from the Express. And this question reads, what alternative is there if the government decides to not accept Patriotic's bid and goes back to the open market after the end of the 15-day extension? Well, JTUM and all the statements we'd have made this morning would have indicated, first of all, that we cannot control, quite frankly, what the government does, but our position has been made very clear this morning, and the OWTU and Patriotic, as far as we see, have made the position very clear. And offers a bid, is a successful bid, is on the table. There is nothing that has been indicated that bid to indicate that bid is defective or does not meet any of the requirements that was indicated from the outset, and therefore the joint trade union movement is therefore making its position clear and is calling upon the government to settle and to conclude with the bid that is on the table, which they themselves indicated was the best bid that they had. So the issue of opening up the bidding to the market, it's not a practical one in our view, and for all the reasons that we would have stated earlier on. But strictly speaking, we cannot control what the government does, but you certainly will see a response from the labor movement of Trinidad and Tobago if the government does not honor the bid of the oilfield workers trade union and Patriotic. So that I just want to end by saying all the information we have indicate the emphasis is that the issue is a lien which the government has to address on their side of the coin, and therefore it's not for the OWTU or Patriotic to address this. OWTU has indicated that they are ready and willing to close this agreement with Patriotic. So that is the answer to the question that was raised, and I understand there might be another. Yeah, yeah. TTT is asking, well, basically the same question. If the government does not return to the table nor accept the bid, what will be the response from the trade union movement? Well, I cannot publicly state the details of that, but certainly the joint trade union movement will certainly, the leadership council and our membership will certainly be meeting and be ready to, at the appropriate time, to indicate what our position would be. But we simply want to indicate, as we have been stating throughout this press conference, we understand that OWTU and Patriotic would have made the best submission, best bid, and we are simply calling upon the government of Trinidad and Tobago to honor that. That's simply what we are asking. We are not asking, it's not like we haven't met the requirements and we are asking for some backdoor entry or anything that is unreasonable. Right? The labor movement, the OWTU, Patriotic, we are not asking for a favor from the government of Trinidad and Tobago. This is not some sort of political handout that we are asking for in exchange for some support or something like that. Nothing we are asking. There's a transaction, a bid on the table. There is the availability of financing or funding arrangement that can meet it. And the joint trade union movement will continue to unite to fight, which was the theme of our successful virtual rally and also our motorcade. We are not in a fight with the government in this sense. Simply, I just want to make this clear. This is not some maybe industrial relations issue, and we're in a fight with the government. We are not in a fight. We are here this morning to indicate to the government that we support the OWTU. They have shown us that they have a successful bid on the table, and we are here simply to support this. We have not been critical in a sense of saying, trying to influence who get the bid or who didn't. It's not like there's a lineup of 10 persons and we are saying here championing, well, give it to the OWTU, give it to the OWTU. We are here because they have already won the bid. That statement would have been confirmed by the government, and we are simply here to express our support. If what comes next will depend on it, it's primarily a matter for the OWTU, but the joint trade union movement will certainly stand ready to give any support that is necessary in the conclusion of this deal, this transaction. I want to emphasize to the media that's what we are here about, to ask the government to basically deal with what you have on the table and let us move to a successful conclusion of this. That is what we are asking for this morning. Absolutely no favors, just simply to conclude what is on the table. So, so members of the media, I believe those are the questions that I would have seen on the chat. I know that there would have been not sure if the technology wasn't quite allowing for the for the verbal expression of questions, but certainly from the questions that would have been put on the chat, that is what we would have seen. And I just wanted to indicate, because of time, we are not able for every panelist of the joint trade union movement to be able to make a statement, but we have received expressions of support. That is the OWTU and Patriotic, from every member of the joint trade union movement, every affiliate. Some affiliates would have even issued individual press statements, which I invite the media to, you can go back and pay attention to. But it is unanimous from all the members of the joint trade union movement. We have received support from the Phyton, as well as two of our colleagues would have indicated, even from the National Trade Union Center. So that I would just like to thank the media for attending. Thank you for your patience and your time in this as we continue as the trade union movement our struggle, not just in this matter, but we remind you also for even as we continue to fight outstanding negotiations in both the public sector, the state sector, and the private sector. And we are hopeful, even as we go forward, that a mechanism would be found in the near future so that we can begin to address effectively all outstanding negotiations in all of the sectors. We know the country is economically challenged and the trade union movement is not unreasonable, but it does not mean that gives the government or any entity the right to indicate, well, we are not negotiating. So we are calling upon the government of Trinidad and Tobago to come to the table with every individual union in the public, in the state sector, and to encourage employers in the private sector that notwithstanding the global pandemic of COVID-19, outstanding negotiations must be settled. Unions of JTUM and Phyton have indicated that they are quite willing to talk and address how settlements are addressed, and we are reminding the government as well on that, and the media, as we conclude this morning's press conference. So thank you very much, members of the media. Thank you to my colleagues of the Joint Trade Union Movement. Thank you to the listening public of Trinidad and Tobago and wherever else in the region this broadcast is being heard. Good day and thank you.